thank you for coming back and listening to us. I am Deej Behrens.
I'm Devin Constantine.
And we are two of the Saturday Night Ladies. Our third lady, Shari Fesko, is on a family vacation this weekend. But the other advantage of having two podcasts, you have people to fill in. So joining us is Casey Killingsworth from We Heart Hater.
Thanks, guys. It's great to be here. Get to talk about the new UK version of SNL on a podcast. I'm happy to fill in whenever I'm needed. I can't wait to get into it.
So what's your general thought on the whole of SNL UK Series 1?
A vast improvement on the SNL US version. They are doing some things that I've seen the US version do as far as like sketch templates and premises and just like vastly improving on them. They've established their own unique identity as a strictly British show in that they only make passing reference to stuff going on in the US, but they mostly make fun of and satirize British topics, British government, and they don't talk about Trump and his government as much because they got their own royal family and their own government that they're really not crazy about to make fun of. So I'm just happy that the show has a lot more unique, sharper sketch writing and, is a nice alternative to the U.S. and that just different subjects of satire.
At least with the British government, we both have the same parliamentary system, so it makes a bit more sense to me. I think this is probably the most British episode, only because I personally before now have not heard of Riz Ahmed, but apparently he has done quite a few things, including he did win an Academy Award in 2002, Best Live-Action Short Film of The Long Goodbye. He's also appeared in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. He's a actor, rapper, comedian. We are going to start talking about the episode, so get your big dumb cup, put on your big dumb hat, and let's talk about SNL UK, shall we? And as most episodes go, we start with the cold open. Speech from a press conference from Prime Minister Keir Starmer, played by George Fouracres, and he's trying to calm the public's worries about the war in Iran. And he lists the help of several British celebrities, including footballer Harry Kane, played by Al Nash, actress Olivia Colman, played by Emma City, and cartoon character Peppa Pig, as portrayed by Annabelle Marlowe. It's maybe the last we see of Fouracres' Keir Starmer, and I'm kind of sad about that, but versus footballer Harry Kane, don't know much about football, though being in the Vancouver area, we're enwrapped in it right now. He seems like the typical kind of jock footballer. What is really fun is Emma City's Olivia Colman, who I recently saw in The Roses, co-starred with Benedict Cumberbatch, Kate McKinnon, and Andy Samberg, which was a different take on the War of the Roses done back in the 80s. That was Peppa Pig with Annabelle Marlowe.
Our final speaker combines two of my greatest interests, outstanding British television and pork. It's Peppa Pig.
Thank you, Daddy Keir. Life is hell, but it doesn't last long, and soon the sadness will end.
Thanks, Peppa. You're very different from how you seem on the telly.
And you're very similar.
The general impression I get of his Keir Starmer is just very non-committal, very apologetic. There's one point in the middle where he says goodbye, and then he comes back.
I'm told there's a second page to my speech.
Really enjoying the impression, and I'm going to be sad to see it go.
I do like George Fouracres' Keir Starmer. That's as fun as a political impression or character can be now. We'll be sad to see that go, but be fun to see more of Patty Young as Andy Burnham, but we'll see how their election goes. He did play his part well, and this is one thing I like about SNL UK's approach to their political satire. By comparison, SNL US, very toothlessly critical of Trump. They kind of playfully beat around the bush with him. They just have James Austin Johnson as strong as a performer he is. He just talks circles around everything. But SNL UK is just very direct and sharp and to the point in saying, hey, we think our country's leader is a spineless, feckless worm and we want him out of office. So it reminded me of how SNL US would approach politics and during the Obama and Biden presidencies, because the way it was structured reminded me of a lot of the type of cold opens we would get in 2021, 2022, when James Austin Johnson was playing Biden, a string of impressions coming on to deliver one line. This version of it was better. It was more entertaining. I don't have much of a point of reference for Al Nash's Harry Kane. I'm not a huge English football or soccer fan, but you don't really need that context, I don't think. Basic premise of this bit is it could be any athlete from any sport, because they bought this guy on to give like a rousing halftime speech that inspires, like, we're down but not out. We're in the fourth quarter. We could still win this thing. But instead, he just gives the typical big lunkhead, media-trained, sportsman-like post-game press conference when they lost. So what you're really getting is they played a good game. We just got to move on to next week and learn from our mistakes. It's that type of thing. I liked Emma Seedy as Olivia Colman just fine. I get that she's kind of playing off the characters Olivia played in Hot Fuzz and the show she did with Mitchell and Webb. Speaking of which, they did a great show called Bruiser in the late 90s, which I suggest you check out. It's really funny. The impression was fine, although I will say the only other impression of Olivia Colman I'd seen has been from Cecily Strong on SNL US, which I thought was a little bit better than Emma's. I liked Annabelle as Peppa Pig, which was cute, and even like a kid's character in a show meant for preschoolers can't say anything inspiring or uplifting, so they say something shockingly dark and nihilistic. I do like the approach to the makeup, in that they just put a nose and some ears on her, didn't go for full-on nightmarish prosthetics. There's one line that stuck out. 4 Acres, as Keir Starmer says, look,
everyone deserves a second chance. Peter Mandelson's had 4 or 5, with many more to come.
I know you talked about Larry's impression of him in the previous episode. Until recently was England's ambassador to the U.S., then Keir Starmer had to fire him, and Mandelson had to step down from the House of Lords because it came out in the press that not only was Peter Mandelson friends with Epstein after both of his convictions, he was selling classified government secrets to Epstein. Now, that's a type of hard-hitting political jab I like to see on SNL UK, and that's my basic take on this cold open.
I gotta admit, you don't hear the word feckless every day.
That's a good word.
So I encourage people to use it more.
Definitely dovetailing on what you guys were saying. I really liked it. I like the Britishness of it, doing a British impression parade of like things that kind of I know what they are as an American, but not really. Like the footballer, I've already forgotten his name, Olivia Colman. I'm like, oh, I know her from some shows in America, but oh yeah, she's British. So and Peppa the Pig, I know who she is, but I almost have no frame of reference from, except from people talking about her. So I really like that. And I really we need to just honestly give a tip of the hat to George 4 Acres for threading the needle on Keir Starmer, because he's almost like beige. He doesn't have a lot of handles. He's not disliked for a specific reason, disliked for fecklessness, like Casey was saying. But how do you do an impersonation of fecklessness? Well, George 4 Acres did. So I thought he did a really good job. And because Keir Starmer was not a caricature, but he made him enough of one to give some context to what was going on. You could tell, okay, this guy means well, but has no plan. Okay, all right. So what do they do with that? And I thought they did a really good job on that. I'm really looking forward to Andy Burnham and how's that going to go. It looks like it's almost a lock, but there's still a procedure they have to go through. I don't know how that's going to work I don't know when they do their elections, but I'm guessing it'll be in time for the next season. I will say a difference between SNL UK and SNL US. SNL UK is the first time something's happened in the news, and I instantly think, what's SNL UK going to do about this? Like SNL US, I'm like, if they touch it, great. If they don't, whatever. I'm going to watch it no matter what. SNL UK, I'm like, ooh, what are they going to do? Who are they going to cast? Who's going to play Burnham? Are they going to have anyone else? Are they going to have any other candidates? George 4 Acres is going to come back to do more Keir Starmer for whatever reason. Maybe, or they're going to retire it. So definitely exciting. And I really can't remember ever feeling that way about SNL US. Not as a bad thing, just not how I watch SNL US. So looking forward to the next season.
On to the monologue from Riz Ahmed. The main theme of this monologue is because he does so many things, he doesn't really know who he is. The nation itself have an identity crisis that British people always have the one little bit of them that want things to be a little bit crap. Not complete crap, but just a little bit crap so they have something to criticize and talk about. Very well-spoken and very charming actor, but in the model that really stood out for me. But I do appreciate the general theme of UK people want things to be just a little bit crappy.
Riz Ahmed is one of those actors where I know I've heard the name before, but I can't immediately tell you when or if I saw this person in anything. If I did see Riz Ahmed in anything, that thing probably would have been Rogue One. Yeah, he did, have a lot of charisma and confidence up front, which is a good sign for the show. And he really elevated the typical SNL US monologue trope of, hey, in case you don't know me, I'm an actor. Here are a few things I've done, and here's some light jokes, and here's a bit of my background. So it's like a boilerplate modern SNL monologue, and he used that I'm having as big an identity crisis as this country is to segue into that. I liked how he also tied that into a meta commentary on the show itself, and the SNL UK is having an identity crisis in that it's a British show, but the first three hosts have been an Irishman, an American lady, and me, a guy with a British accent who's clearly of Middle Eastern descent. I like that this ended up being the rousing, inspiring speech that Keir Starmer was hoping Harry Kane would give. Yeah, I like a line about how even they like sports are a little bit crap.
Cricket can go on for 5 days and still be a draw.
I've seen groups of Indian guys actually playing cricket in a park or in a dog run that's near my house at the end of the street. I haven't seen them for 5 consecutive days in a row, but I mean, that part of the monologue hit for me, but it got the show off to a good start, and I like that.
I liked a lot of things about this monologue, the meta nature of it, like you both were saying. And then the thing about British people liking things are a little bit crap. I only thought that was kind of funny because of the commentary on SNL UK on the Saturday Night Network, because I'm just shocked that the British people they have come on and like give their takes. They're all like, I'm like, this is a 10 out of 10. Congratulations to SNL UK. You guys did it. This is great. And all of them, if you go back and listen to like episodes 1 and 2, they're all like, okay, it was good, but like, let's not get our hopes up because they need room to grow. So I'm going to do like an 8 or a 9. I'm like, what? It's an accomplishment that they made it. But the way that the small sample of an audience that I've heard talk about it, the way they react to it is very like hesitant and cautious. Like, okay, let's not blow it. I'm not going to tell you I think it's great because you still need to earn it. I'm like, and that's been like kind of universal, like every episode recap I've seen. Clearly there's an undercurrent that's not present in the US that I'm not sure what it is, but I think it's so interesting. So when he said that, I'm like, oh my God, that's what SNL UK viewers are saying. Okay, this checks out. This seems legit. Riz Ahmed, very handsome. Just as a sidebar, Shari's not here. Sorry, Casey. I just really need to say that. And I really like the way he called out, make some people uncomfortable with, the diversity of SNL UK. I thought he did a really good job addressing that head on and was very rooted in where he was and what his purpose was at that show. Had a lot of ease with the microphone on stage. And that just, no matter what you're saying, that puts people, that eases their mind. This is going to be a great night. I know it's very un-British of me, but I really think it was.
Well, the UK is used to the US making versions of their shows. Although for every All in the Family and Sanford Son, there's also your US Red Dwarf, the attempt at Absolutely Fabulous. This is the first time that they've taken on a U.S. format. And generally, British people tend to be a bit more reserved, a bit more cautious. When you're doing like a employee evaluation And you don't want to give anyone 5s because you want them to be able to always have room for improvement. We have a pre-tape, Phones on Loud, a music video parodying American country songs addressing common film tropes such as characters keeping their phones on loud, FaceTime never looking right, and characters using fictional apps. If you're in a horror movie, why do you have text sounds on? Why do you have your ringer on? If you vibe, or at least go silent. The song was great. I'm constantly impressed by the singing talents of all the SNL UK cast. Annabelle Marlowe, Jack Shep, and Ayade. One part that really impressed me was they had that very difficult little dance break about 3/4 in, and that was pretty fast choreography. And because it's a pre-tape, you have several takes to get it right. This is skill of the people performing it, all very much true in a lot of films.
People use their phones less efficiently in movies than in real life, because if people in movies use phones the way they do in real life, their movie would be over in like 20 minutes and it wouldn't be very entertaining. And obviously the fictional apps thing, whatever real brands the filmmakers can actually afford in their budget to have to pay out the ass to for product placement. I got heavy Lonely Island vibes from it. And by that, I mean, it reminded me of Andy Samberg's Cool Guys Don't Look at Explosions from the 2009 VMAs, and the Rescue Dogs 3D short they did also in 2009. In fact, this might have worked better in an award show. I do like how they deconstructed all the wrong ways people use phones and apps. They brought up, why is it that cops in movies only socialize with other cops? Why do they only marry other cops? Their entire families are just cops. And it was an interesting way for them to work Ayawade in this and give her screen time. I've seen a few people point out how funny it is, maybe a coincidence, but it's funny that, well, this episode aired the same night as the Jack Black with Jack White episode of SNL US. It was the first ever transatlantic SNL doubleheader. That Jack Black episode had a country song short of its own called Words to Live By. Funny how they both had their own country songs. I think Words to Live By sounded more like a real country song you'd hear on the radio now, probably because it was written by James Austin Johnson and Andrew Dismukes, who are both vaguely Southern gentlemen who have a specific talent for mimicking real country music. But this just sounded more like it was parodying either bluegrass or a square dance, or like they saw like one or two square dance sketches that SNL did, and that was like their only exposure to country music. But calling this like country's a bit of a stretch. I like this, even if it was a little dense and briskly paced for its own good. It was a good thing to follow the monologue.
Well, to be precise, it's more line dance than square dance, which was something I really hated in elementary school gym class.
On that, I was like watching it, and I think John on the SNM was saying they was initially supposed to be in this, and they had to edit or add it or something. But this wasn't the original idea. And I was like looking at the screen, and they had like a bunch of people doing line dancing in a Western garb. I was like, oh, that's LOL, that's funny. I'm like, wait a minute, that's supposed to represent all of America. I'm American. That's not me. And I was like, hey, be easy. But I mean, that's fair game. I just was not used to thinking or feeling like that based on an SNL sketch. I'm like, that's not what you think we're stupid. No, that's what I got. Maybe it's a little hypersensitivity, but otherwise I'm right over there for Rescue Dogs 3D, that Lonely Island, or that sketch or that pre-tape. So any comparison to that is quite a compliment.
Yeah, I believe James Austin Johnson and Andrew Dismukes with Forgetsy were responsible for Lake Beach.
Affirmative.
Which is one I rather liked, especially with the little bit of David Kroll that we got in there. Going live to a sketch called Great Big Crab Man. Completely absurd for so many reasons. And this is a parody of Traders UK. Claudia Winkleman, the host, played by Celeste String. People try to find out in this one who is the undercover Great Big Crab Man. So the contestants are Emma City, Riz Ahmed, George Fouracres, Annabelle Marlowe, Ayade, and Larry Dean. Fouracres and this big-ass crab costume. And the fact that they named him Sebastian just adds another layer onto this. Everybody seems to be blaming Imran, which was Riz Ahmed's character. There's no way you could mistake him for a giant crab man. And I love the one clip that they showed of a competition where they had the crab man only walking side to side. Where they twisted the sketch was, it seemed that they're going more for the non-white members of the cast, because at the end,
there's someone who is slipping under the radar. At tomorrow's round table, the person I'll be looking at...
Hey, I'll pack my bags.
How can you see this big-ass crab man? And George Fouracres doesn't have a lot to say, because it's mainly kind of guttural noises, but those little cheeky facial expressions behind the crab costume, which was quite impressive. There's this one point where he's trying to comfort the person next to him. He started tapping on them with the crab claw. Now, I've never seen an episode of Traitors, just for the sheer absurdity of people not seeing the obvious. I really like this one.
I've never seen an episode of the real Traitors either, but I have heard about it. And before I watched this episode when it aired, I did see that this clip was uploaded to YouTube with the title Traitors, a very confident mistake. So when I did see the sketch, I was wondering, it's titled Great Big Crab Man. And I thought, hey, well, how is this a Traitors parody? I don't see anyone doing an Alan Cumming impression. And then I found out, it's the UK SNL. They're parodying their own version of the Traitors, which ours, I think, is an adaptation of. And so Celeste does do at least a visually dead-on Claudia Winkleman, and Fouracres as the crab man was the highlight of this. I do appreciate his commitment to it. One other sketch this reminded me of was the sorority sketch from Nikki Glazer's episode, which it followed that template. And I bring that up because this is my second time making a guest appearance on Saturday Night Ladies. And the first time I did that was right after Nikki's episode last November, where we talked about that sketch. One thing I do like about this sketch is that it does have the balls to directly confront a lot of the out and out racism you hear about going on with reality show contestants, and in England to a degree. So, let's just say, to quote Ahmed from the episode before this is the reason why 90% of the British public can't seem to have a normal conversation about Meghan Markle.
This sketch is about this, but it's really about this. It's about making fun of traitors, but we're talking about racism. Like, I really, really value those kinds of sketches when they're making a social commentary, but if you don't get it, it's still kind of funny. 9 years old and you don't really get it, it's still funny. The set design was great. I thought the costuming was great. I thought it was really elaborate. They really went on out with the crab costume. And incidentally, I don't know if this is a new thing with reality television, but Traitors, I don't watch reality TV at all, but when I'm watching SNL UK, I left it on and I saw the Traitors with Alan Cumming. Conan O'Brien says he watches it just to hear Alan Cumming say Traitors. So I was like, all right, I'll watch it. But I don't know if it's a new thing with television now. Maybe someone can confirm, but the show will give you so much exposition and they will describe what's happening. Like, a car drives down a dark, dusty road to be met by the lights of the castle, and the driver and passenger exit. I've never seen a show like that. And like I've said before, my vision is I need new glasses. I have not done it yet. I need new glasses. I can't see my television. I'm also on my phone. So I really appreciate that, because it's almost, I'm sure it's for second screen viewing, but if you're vision impaired, that's like a godsend. But it was enough to keep me watching the show, because I don't really, doesn't do anything for me in reality television. Yeah, I really like the commentary it was making on the effort and the commitment to the set design and the bit. I mean, yeah, and it was very funny the way they kept escalating it, because it's like, what, you're gonna kick me off? Like, are you sure not, guy, like the gigantic guy with the claws, or not him? I thought that was a pretty good contrast, so you could see exactly what they were talking about. Like, oh no, we can't see it.
Is it possible you might have had the Scribe video on by accident?
Maybe. I looked at my settings because SNL UK wasn't doing that. So I don't know. Like I kept like stop. I don't know. I've never seen that before.
There happened to be once where when I loaded up the global app to watch SNL, for some reason it had automatically had Scribe video, and I had to figure out how to turn that off. The Traitors is based on a Dutch series called The Verraders. Now, my pronunciation is probably well off. Pre-tape number 2. Riz Ahmed becomes obsessed with the board game Operation for months. Operation is the game where you have this guy on... It's really weird. The games in like the 70s and the 80s were almost half kind of like torture because you have to try and get these little plastic bits out of the body on the thing. And if you hit the edge, it buzzes. So you get there's a bit of stuff with electricity, just like in playing Perfection. Pop Goes Perfection, a fast-paced classic where players race against a 60-second timer to fit various geometric shapes into their matching slots. If the timer runs out before you place all the pieces, the spring-loaded tray pops up and scatters them across the table. So kind of a milder version of what Jigsaw did in the Saw series. He spends months trying to not hit the sides, and he finally makes it. And it gives him some weird confidence that on a date with his wife, played by Celeste String, and the waiter, Jack Shep, says there's a medical emergency, and played by Alan Nash, who is basically made up to be like the guy on the operation table. Riz's character gets overconfident, thinking that, oh, I've seen this, I can help this. And third week in a row, we have something where an SNL sketch is spraying blood all over the place because he gets a pair of tongs from one of the nearby waiters and just starts going in on him. This is the ultimate escalation, and using Nash as the operations guy of the red nose. Once I saw that, I kind of knew where it was going, and I loved it. I loved it.
It may not have been my favorite SNL UK sketch of all time, but I do really respect how committed they were to the writing and performances and making this as like realistically absurd and grounded as they could. Because the first thing I thought of when I saw this was an SNL US sketch parodying the game Bop It, where it was Mikey and Chloe and Chris Redis, a bunch of kids playing Boop It, and then Beck Bennett comes in as just the sloppy drunk dad who becomes obsessed with the game, and then Heidi Gardner comes in as a mom who's embarrassed that he's not helping with the kids because of this. They just says he wants her back. And then this takes you on a roller coaster of subverting every expectation you would have. So you'd think this would just be, oh, he becomes obsessed with Operation, and then his wife and kids will leave him, and that's where they leave him. But no, he finally gets that one clean attempt that he's been spending months of his life chasing, and it happens right at the moment when his wife Celeste is about to leave him. Because she sees this, she decides to reconcile with him. Then you see the medical emergency at a restaurant with Al Nash. You might think, oh, maybe he can actually pull this off, but then nope, he just is baffled by all these intestines just in the way. He's like,
Going for the breadbasket. What the? God help me! What is all this? Wishbone! Where's the horse? Did you have to believe me? There were supposed to be pieces. The butterfly, the breadbasket.
Whatever, sir, you come with me.
Olivia! Olivia, tell them!
he's arrested for murder, and Al Nash is placed in a body bag. They hit the edge of the door, wheeling him out so his nose lights up. And I do appreciate when they had Jack's character vomit, he did it in a bucket as invisibly as possible so they could get that out of the way, but just very tastefully so it doesn't feel like you're putting a hat on a hat at this point. This episode had like two of the most Python-esque sketches I've seen on SNL UK. This is the first knew exactly how far they could go with this without letting it get too silly.
I love this so much. I love what you guys have said about it so much. I love the slow build. It was like, I think it was like a fourth act to this sketch, like the character arc of Riz Ahmed. You're like rooting for him to get it, but like, why are you doing this? Because it's not that big of a deal. It's not that hard. Why is it taking so long? But I appreciate the dedication. And it just keeps going. And then I swear to I did when he's at the restaurant, Al Nash is like laying on the ground like the guy from Operation. And he's like, oh, I've been waiting for this. And like, oh, yeah, it's finally your chance to redeem yourself in reality with the skills you've learned. And he's learned no skills, and he just ends up killing the guy. And that got so dark so fast. I was just like delighted. I was so happy with the direction it took and with how dark it got. This isn't the breadbasket. As you both have been describing the sketch, I've been laughing just imagining it because it was so funny to me. Everybody was so committed. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the comparisons you guys made. Agree with all of it. It was a really well-executed idea and sketch, and everybody involved did a great job.
Yeah, because you think it might be, okay, he actually has those bits to go in with as an operation, but no, this is a real live guy that just happens to have a red nose.
Grisly killing.
I love it when things, I'm a twisted bitch, so I do like when things take a dark turn, which is probably one of the main reasons I love Barry so much. We go back to live 1990s music all the time. So they're on a radio show that plays music from the 90s. Riz Ahmed is a doctor who is there to talk about prostate cancer. MC Twister, who is Al Nash. Lady Magnum with Pink Marmalade, Ayari Bamboyoye, and DJ Solero Bay, played by Ahmed Ania. As this goes on, we're getting much better at pronouncing the names. I like that. But he's so interrupted by call-ins and all the other performers that he just switches into rap. I don't know if I call this one really funny. I mean, it didn't really get me laughing too much, but when you get to the part when the doctor changes to rap to try and present important information, I believe this was mainly written to show off his impressive rap skills. And I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. Doubt he freestyled it. The information was very well constructive, and he does have good flow. While not exactly ha-ha funny, it was more like, oh, wow, this is impressive.
I had a lot of fun with this too, even though there wasn't quite as much to dig into. Like Deej says, I think this was written for Riz Ahmed to show off his rap skills, show us he has bars, and this was written to show off that. Operation was written to play off his images like this heavy, dramatic method actor. But they played this really well. This is one example of what I would say is SNL UK taking, the template from something SNL US did and just vastly improving on it. Like, on the surface, this does remind me of Jimmy Fallon's Z105 DJ. Hey, we're back, yeah, who would just bring guests on and then make fart noise and say, oh, he just pooped his pants. And they would, so it's just the template of a serious man wants to come on and say something serious in this radio show, but he just keeps getting interrupted with just a bunch of the DJ bullshit of it. And it's like they took his character out and replaced them with Kyle Mooney's character, MC Strategy, who would show up at, town hall meetings, and he had a Dutch accent and would talk about real hip hop. And so it's like that, but they improved on it by not just having the guests leave in disgust, but by the guest figuring out, well, I got to meet these people on their level to actually get a message out. So I'd say that's how they elevated what this was.
I'm in total agreement. I was delighted by this. This is my favorite sketch of the night, I think. I thought the music was like good. And I guess like that genre of radio show is a thing in the UK that is not a thing in the US. So I appreciate that when it's like, no, this is SNL UK. We're talking about UK stuff. I'm like, all right. I'm here for it. And I did not know that Riz Ahmed had any kind of rapping skills whatsoever. So when that part happened and he did a really good job, I guess on the demographic that they were shooting for, I was really impressed. I'm like, ooh, well executed. Oh, and then you started to think, well, maybe this was the entire reason for the sketch, but the sketch made sense. It wasn't like a shoehorn, like you both were saying. It was a pretty well-constructed reason for him to start rapping. Like there's not enough time and he needs to tell men to think about their prostate health, which is also a good message in general. Because I kind of hate it when they like make something not to be concerned about. But like, that's a real concern. I'm glad they're getting the word out. I'm glad it was done with a lot of flair and skill. Yeah, I can't really add anything more to what you guys have said. I thought it was really great and I really, really liked it.
Weekend update with Patty and Anya. And their knockout chemistry continues with unabated. I didn't quite take note of all the jokes, but I know with this, they had 3 correspondents, which is a bit unusual. Not something I'm half familiar with, let me put it this way. So the first is Emma City as Chloe Bibby Wrinkle, who was a contestant on Love Island UK, talking about her job being replaced by AI-generated Fruit Love Island, popular on TikTok. Now, this is something I've seen quite a bit on TikTok. It's like a vertical drama, but all the people are based on like fruits and vegetables, or sometimes there's a Coke bottle. Well, I can appreciate the anthropomorphic artistry in the art, but still, it's AI crap. Jack Shep as an adorable little dormouse, which works for me because Jack Shep is a cutie pie, becomes a social media influencer, tries to vote what's in my bag, being a red carpet reporter, his Subway take, and shows off his Dormice and Men podcasts. And this was just adorable because, again, it's Jack Shep. The best person they could have got to play an adorable little dormouse. I don't know if this dormouse is based on anything from a show or just is what it is. And the capper was George Foraker's and Al Nash, father and son. They'll do skin on skin, bonding after 32 years to maintain a strong bond without screen, to basically prevent from spending so much time on iPads and phones and stuff. The SNL people in UK are fearless. I mean, there's a lot of people that wouldn't. I mean, as someone who is a woman of substance, as I like to say, you don't necessarily always want to show off things but just the two of them together. There's one point where the father is smelling his hair, and you think it would be creepy, but it actually wasn't. It was kind of heartwarming. And you even got Patty kind of joining at the end, but after that, we're seeing Anya sort of slowly backing up in a rolling chair with it. Completely unexpected, as with the Dormouse. They were a very effective father and son, although I would have thought that Al Nash would be the father, but they're willing to go out there shirtless together, just stay connected and talk about commitment. I liked a lot of what they were saying, but mostly it's just the almost absurdity, but it kind of makes sense kind of thing.
It wasn't really the guest commentaries that made it for me, although I do like the controlled absurdity of the father and son who do skin on skin contact. That was the perfect way to end it. But Emma as a Love Island contestant, didn't land for me. I've never really cared about Love Island, and I know about the fruit thing probably because I'd see John Oliver's report on AI slop, and I didn't even register that Emma might be playing an actual Love Island contestant instead of just, generic reality dating show bimbo number 453 or whatever. Like, that felt like something Cecily Strong would have done. SNL did a real Love Island parody, which didn't land for me either. And Jack as the adorable dormouse felt a little too much like something Bowen would have done that would have been one of his more forgettable things, because he's in an animal costume poking gentle fun at influencers, kind of as if he wants to be one. I did like Al and Patty's thing, and it was the jokes that made this one for me. Taking note of a couple. Patty says it's Easter. It's the day we celebrate the one murdered Palestinian we're allowed to talk about. He says the Navy's, old, now dated. So they've only got one submarine and half the crew's dead, and it's the Beatles' yellow submarine. Anya says in the Iran conflict, they bombed a bridge, and when reached for comment, a U.S. military representative said, "Oh, we're so sorry, we meant to bomb a school." And there was a joke about, like, they found police guns, and she says something about, like, our police are so busy killing women, they keep leaving their guns around. But also, she says Mark Zuckerberg has just purchased a bunker underneath his mansion, and she hopes he uses that bunker the same way Hitler did at his. And the reason I bring that up is because, yeah, there's an edginess to SNL UK's update, but it's a real edginess versus the forced, almost cutesy edginess we get with Che and Jost in the US, especially Che. The UK weekend update, they're not afraid to just be blunt and just straight up go for the jugular. Whereas when Colin and Che try it, they have to backpedal a little with reaction to the audience, or just this whole "ain't I a stinker" vibe, or just whatever Che says. Hey, it's the 90s. So the UK is just better at pulling off that edgy humor that Che and Jost wish they could, but they can't because SNL's a network show in the US, which is different restrictions and different audience.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I mean, I had to say, I think the dynamic with Patty and Anya is a little bit different from Michael and Colin, because Che and Colin have been doing this for over a decade now, I think. So they're like they're institutional at this point. So it's going to be a much harder crank to turn to expect them to be edgy and really go for it. I mean, very much a SNL and Michael Che apologist for sure. And when he says that it's the 90s, I think it's funny every single time. Not ironically, I find that people on Reddit get so mad. They're like, it's so stupid. I'm like, Anya and Patty are like young. They're coming in. This is their show. There are no rules. They're writing them. They're building the plane as it's flying. There's an element of danger. I think they do go for the jugular. I'm really glad they brought up, because I don't know a whole lot about UK politics, the paradigm a whole lot, but I do know that the police killing a female woman jogger was murdered, ended up being a cop, and that was a big thing a couple years ago. So I'm glad that they're still mentioning that, which I agree is kind of going for the jugular for sure. I think Jack Shep is the resident young person of SNL UK. He's always the Gen Z representative, and he like jammed in all the different YouTube shows into one weekend update correspondent piece, which I really love it when anything does that, when they just jam in a bunch of topical references into a short period of time as a bookmark. I'm like, this is what society was doing. Skin on skin thing, I'm hearing about the concept. Hilarious. It was so uncomfortable to watch, and they committed so hard to it. But it's such a 180 from like skin on skin is like something you have to, I don't know how it's seen in America versus the UK, but the fact that it was two men doing it was really, really funny, and they did not shirk from it, and they committed to it so hard. SNL UK Weekend Updates is honestly killing it. I mean, I'm excited for their takes. I'm excited for their delivery. I'm excited for the chemistry. I'm excited for the guests that come on. They're just really knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, I think Skin on Skin is the main concept is for like maybe the first year of a baby's life when they're just born, just to add a bit more connection and mother-child connection. And as for Weekend Update, Colin Jost started in March of 2014 in season 39, replacing Seth Meyers. And then in season 40, Michael Che started in September of 2014, so he's been there for 10 seasons. And they were the first male duo to host Weekend Update. And did it with Cecily Strong, but then Cecily wanted to just go back to just doing sketches. So that's when they brought Michael Che in. And at that time, they were co-head writers, so they're doing this and head writing at the same time. 2 more live sketches. The Royal Society of Literature's Gothic Horror Challenge. Looking for the best work of Gothic horror, Miss Eliza Fouts, played by Celeste String, presents Nosferatu through Edmund Blackthorne, played by Ahmed, presents Wolfman, While Sir Humphrey Collinsgrave, George Fouracres, love this guy, I love this guy so much, presents the bastard seagull who keeps terrorizing him through his broken window. Riz Ahmed is the host, and we have Al Nash in the audience asking questions, and there's, just to fill out the spectators there, two of the writers, Bella Hole and Lorna Rose Treen, appear in the audience. So you expect the standards of Nosferatu and Wolfman, and the bastard seagull, so ridiculous, but in the end, you can kind of see where it can be kind of scary, because seagulls are assholes. That's all you can really say about them. But the fact that he left his window open, one of them got in, and he can't get rid of it. He bought like an owl to try and get rid of that. And the entire room's destroyed by the seagull. We have him covered, like, you have like his hair all messed up, and you can see bird poop. It presented a really ridiculous, but until you got to the end where they had the seagull puppet up, and that was pretty freaking scary. It may not be your classic horror, but if you're living this, it can be very, very frightening and scary.
Yeah, this is definitely somewhere in my top 5 apolitical George Fouracres performances, and it's definitely the type of thing I would like to see him do more of to fill the void that Keir Starmer left in his repertoire when he resigned. So it's because he pretty much owned this. Riz played well off him and matched his energy. Ahmed gave his most Kenan Thompson coded performance in this as well, and it was one of the more unique sketches of the night, even though, you know, there was kind of a vague SNL US template to it. But, you know, I just had too much fun with this to notice that or dig deep enough to find it. I would say the seagull puppet being shoved in front of the camera made this the second most Python sketch of the night, because they did that in place of writing a real ending. I think they shoved a seagull in front of the camera the way that Monty Python would slam into a Terry Gilliam cutout animation thing from the non-ending of one sketch to the next. Yeah, that's as absurd as they got, but my favorite live sketch of this episode.
Wow, that is high praise, Casey. I was very lost during this. I'm like, what's going on? Why? What's supposed to be funny about? I don't know what's happening. Am I not sophisticated? I don't know. I was not tracking with it. But when I heard again, I'm referencing SNL because they actually have people that are from there that call in at all hours of the night to give their takes. And I forget who the UK guest was, but they thought this was so funny. They were just so satisfied. They were just blown away. I think it was one of the guys who doesn't like a lot of things that SNL UK does on principle or in general. And he was just tickled pink. He just thought this was so great. I think it was him. I forget. But whoever the UK correspondent was loved it. And I was like, oh, maybe it just wasn't for me. Maybe it wasn't for me, period. Not even because I'm American, because you two both liked it. Well, American and Canadian. I really love that when I see a sketch on SNL UK that I'm not like, okay, but someone that is in the UK thinks is the best thing ever. I really appreciate that and like that.
Our final sketch of the night, Pregnancy Class, which is run by Emma City, and there are two couples played by a straight couple, played by Annabelle Marlowe and Larry Dean, and a queer couple, Iwade and Celeste. Riz comes in with his partner, Pascal, who is the Easter Bunny, and also who is Ahmed. I loved his costume. He was wearing Crocs to be comfortable, and they had everyone asking questions about, okay, what are you giving birth to? Well, it's basically 82 million Easter eggs. When one of the couples mentions that they're eating the eggs, Riz covers the Easter Bunny's ears, but he doesn't quite go down low enough to actually cover where the ear holes are. But it's nice that he was trying to protect his partner from being scandal, and then Riz gets really offended when they ask him, so where do the eggs come out? So they storm off. The Easter Bunny has one last thing to say before he goes. Oh, yes, they come out the back. I believe that Ahmed made a very adorable Easter Bunny. They had a good couples chemistry. I really thought they did. Absurd concept, based in the somewhat reality. The one thing I would nitpick about is if Easter Bunny does this every year, why would they need the pregnancy class? Unless they're trying to get his partner used to the process. But basically, the Easter Bunny poops chocolate eggs.
This did remind me of some of the sketches I've seen SNL US do that are either just strange Lamaze classes or just a couple of really recent sketches that Bo and Yang did with Adam Driver and John Hamm, where they're a gay couple trying to physically have a baby, and their friends have to convince them that that's not possible because neither one of them can get pregnant or deliver a baby. But it at least added something to that formula with the implication that the Easter Bunny is unaware that the eggs he half lays, half defecates, chocolate eggs that are meant to be eaten and not raised like children, and just his shock at finding this out for the first time. I will say Ahmed and Riz elevated this with the way they played it. And, it must have taken a bit of restraint on the writer's part to not cast Jack as the Easter Bunny, because saner heads prevailed or more creative heads prevailed and said, no, Ahmed would look a lot funnier and a lot more believable in a giant bunny suit. You'd much more easily buy that he's pregnant with billions and billions of eggs somehow.
I really enjoyed Ahmed in the Easter Bunny costume. I'm glad he got some pretty good screen time. And yeah, everything you guys said. Was this the last sketch of the night? Is this the last one?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so that is episode 3 of SNL UK, and now it's time for our ratings, and I have thought about this, and we are going to rate this by from 1 to 10 bastard seagulls. This is going to go for a 7.3. It was still a good quality episode, just not quite as elevated as the previous two. Some of that could have been due to my not knowing who Riz Ahmed was, but I was glad throughout the show to actually get to know him, because he's quite funny, he's committed, he can rap like a motherfucker, being multi-talented, that's okay. And so I'm always interested to actually meet new people I don't know. So that's what SNL UK provides to me. One person I really want to have as a host next year is Lenny Henry. He's absolutely hilarious, and he was a host of when they did this one night kind of Saturday Live-esque show back in the UK.
I'm going to give this 7.6 bastard seagulls out of 10. This was just the third episode in SNL UK's initial run, and with Tina's episode and Jamie's episode, they had firmly, established themselves as this uniquely British show with its own British identity. It was SNL in name only. This week, they did a little bit of backsliding on that, in that they seem to have borrowed some minor formatting from SNL US, but they did some major punch-ups on it and injected a lot more British humor into them. Out of the first 3, this would have been the second one behind Jamie's. And also, this was the third show out of 4 in a row consecutively, which in the past that completely burned out 3 or 4 separate SNL US casts on the rare times they've had to do that many. One thing that the SNL UK cast and crew has going for it is that they're basically these young and talented and young and hungry up-and-comers who are eager to prove themselves, eager to show us their chops, show us what they got. So they've got the sheer charisma and talent to put anything over.
I'm going to go 8.5 out of 10 bastard seagulls, just because the more we're talking about it, I'm like, wow, this was a banger episode. Then there were a couple of sketches that didn't really, they were kind of clunky for me. I hate to say it, but the highs were really high in this episode. So it wasn't consistent. but it really delivered a lot of really funny stuff. So based on that, it's very American of me.
That brings us to our conclusion for this episode. Shari, you were very much missed, but I understand the need for vacation. So Shari should be back with us next episode, which is kind of weird because there's a few, like the Traders one is a sketch she probably would have loved, I'm gonna guess. Steve, thank you for stepping in for us. Well, I really appreciate talking about SNL UK. So hopefully was it good for you?
It was great for me. I'm excited. I was excited to finally get to talk about the UK SNL on a podcast. I was wondering when I get my chance, and this was basically handed to me. So I'm happy to fill in for any member of the Wacky Notions Productions team. So thanks for having me.
I mean, not to make this all be me, but the fact that I'm doing 2 podcasts, I thought I'd only ever do 1. It's still amazing to me. Still getting into it. So we just celebrated episode 40 of We Hard Hater. Our next Documentary Now episode will be featuring the season 2, episode 2 of called Juan Likes Like Rice and Chicken, based on Hero Dreams of Sushi.
I just want to say congratulations to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Their marriage was they got married today, I guess, and their marriage was officiated by Adam Sandler.
Oh my God.
I know, right? I know. Like, who knew that was going to be a thing ever? Like, that's actually like throwing me for a bit of a loop. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
Yes.
Congrats.
So, from all of us at Saturday Night Ladies and Wacky Notion Production, thank you for joining us. Now, go forth and find that funny.
Funny as hope.
Saturday Night Ladies is a presentation of Wacky Notion Productions. Hosted by Deeds Barons, Shari Fesko, and Demi Constantine. Recorded and edited by Deeds Barons. Off-week show research by Shari Fesko. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, just email SaturdayNightLadies1978@gmail.com. And as always, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.